And we're back. We are back. I didn't cut my hair, if anybody's asking. It's just pulled back because it feels weird when the headphones are on. Welcome back to Vince versus Everyone. Uh, so, we tried to go live about this yesterday, but I guess, I don't know. It apparently hurt somebody's feelings. I got a content strike for I guess, being too honest, sticking to the facts, saying that, hey, instead of just running wild with stuff that we hear on the internet, we should talk about the verified facts and the actual people involved when Tucker Carlson claims that he's under investigation by the CIA, which is a wild claim. It's an insanely wild claim, but it's one that you kind of have to piece apart because like any good conspiracy theory, it's only half true. And you can get some good facts out of there, but with a lot of hyperbole and a little bit of painting in the gray areas, you can you can take what should be a mundane thing and turn it into, well, somehow a national news story. And so this is kind of where it all starts, right? You see Tucker Carlson earlier this week. He goes on his show and he says that he's under investigation by the CIA for FARA violations, meaning that he's working on behalf of a foreign government. And now the CIA is reading his private text messages with contacts that he has in Iran, which is already in some ways kind of a self-report because for it to be FARA, it wouldn't just be like some Iranian citizens and him trying to figure out what's going on the ground in Iran. For it to rise to the level of a FARA violation, it would have to be that he was acting on behalf of the Iranian government. So at the very least, this would mean that he was interfacing directly with government agents and government officials of Iran, right? But you see, that doesn't exactly characterize what happened. And moreover, when an Axios reporter had asked about this, the answer that he got was a heck no. Just we'll keep it light because I would actually like to be able to talk about this without it being struck down for hurting somebody's feelings. So no, Axios reporter Mark Caputo had said that senior members of the Trump White House said that this was totally farcical. This was not true. And so, furthermore, the CIA denies it. They say there's no DOJ investigation, there's no CIA investigation. This is not actually happening. So let's talk about Tucker Carlson over the last few years, right? Because as soon as he left Fox News, this was a huge stain, right? A $787 million lawsuit against Fox News because of his claims around the voting machines, right? We won't necessarily get into all of that, but he launches the Tucker Carlson Network. He goes, I think, onto Red Seat, and now is just separate and doing his own little glorified podcast. But, I mean, he's a pretty high-profile guy. This is a major news show that a lot of people watch. It didn't take very long for Tucker Carlson to get the nickname Tucker Catarlson. And this is because Tucker was spending a whole lot of time in the Middle East. He bought a house in Qatar. He even said in an interview that he bought a house in Qatar because I'm an American and I can do whatever I want. And, I just like hunting, fishing, and sometimes staying in my home in the Middle East. So, whatever. And technically, sure, he's right. We don't have any laws that prevent a person from doing that if that's what he's motivated to do. But it wasn't beating the allegations that he was somehow working with the Qatari government. Now, if you've been paying even an ounce of attention over the last 3 weeks, it would be weird that now he's under investigation for working with the Iranian government, which is directly declared war against Qatar and every single day are striking them with drones and missiles. So already we're seeing that there's two competing conspiracies here. That Tucker is somehow simultaneously working with multiple countries that are at war doesn't really make any sense. And just before you even have time to process this crazy thing that he's saying on his own podcast, Laura Loomer takes to X so that she can actually say, no, indeed, he is being under investigation, and it was her that referred him to the DOJ for FARA violations, which is basically just Laura trying to boost her own profile. She loves pretending like she's the real president right now. And let's unpack that, because Laura Loomer has been quite a busy bee, but it is important to point out that referring somebody, even if that's true, which I don't think that she published any papers or any reports, she didn't share any emails that she then shared with the DOJ to launch this investigation, other than one picture of Tucker meeting with Saudis. So she's claiming that Tucker is now indeed under investigation for his FARA violation of ties with the Iranian government, and yet the only evidence she has supporting this is a picture of Tucker Carlson with Saudis, another country that is currently at war with Iran and undergoing daily missile strikes. So, again, we have facts that don't actually point to any modicum of the truth at all. I mean, because here's the thing about a conspiracy theory and where you can kind of draw the distinction between what's just some wild harebrained conspiracy theory and what could actually be plausible. And the main difference, the easiest way to tell the difference, is that when you have something that's true, even if it's inconvenient, even if it's not widely reported, the facts and evidence that are provable tend to point towards the truth. That's the thing about the truth, is that any evidence that you can actually say for sure is true, or any testimony that you consider trustworthy, is part of how you can tell if testimony is trustworthy is because it points in the direction, those facts and those testimonies points in the direction of the truth. Now, just for contrast, we'll talk about what happened with Charlie Kirk. We'll talk about all of these wild claims about TPUSA and Erika Kirk, which, if you listen to Candace, you talk about the Egyptian planes totally disproven, or you talk about, a lapel mic or ballistics, and a lot of these things have been discarded as not true. And then when you look at what's left, people say, well, just look at how she's acting. Oh, well, just look at her leather pants. And they say these things. And here's the thing, you're left with either conjecture or you're left with a pattern of facts that don't actually point towards what you're claiming. What you're claiming actually makes the whole situation harder to understand. It makes it more confusing. If we thought that it was an inside job, what do Egyptian planes have to do with it? If you thought it was a particular country in the Middle East, then what does the French Legion have to do with it? These things don't make sense. This is where you start to say, dude, you're going down the rabbit hole. You're getting lost in the sauce. You need to stop. But the weird thing about TikTok, the weird thing about this platform in particular, is that all day you will see viral posts on the For You page about Erika Kirk nonstop. It's just clips of Erika Kirk with the caption that, oh, I just don't trust her. She had something to do with it. She was in on it. It's all these crazy things. But the second that you say, hey, let's stick to verified reporting, let's stick to actual quotes that we can put a name on. If you do that, oh, hey, this topic's a little too hot. You can't talk about this on this platform. That's my problem. That's why we have a backup on Rumble, Vince versus everyone. That's why it's there. That's why it's there. And, I like TikTok. I like the engagement. I like that there's a huge diversity of ideas and viewpoints and opinions. And because of that, you can have a nice conversation. You can have a real conversation with people who actually think differently from you. And, Rumble is still a growing platform. I don't think it's really been fully adopted in a lot of ways like other video players or like this platform. So sometimes it's a little harder to find that diversity of thought that I enjoy about TikTok so much. But when we talk about this particular case, and it all points back to really the only actual testimony, the only supporting evidence with Tucker is Laura Loomer's claims. And if you look at Laura Loomer, you look at her history, like I said, this is a woman who seems to think that she's actually the one driving the bus right now. Look at what she's done with staffing. I mean, she's bragged several times about getting people fired, about, that, oh, well, she's the one who leaked this information that got so-and-so knocked out, or that, she had this information on Marjorie Taylor Greene that turned into this whole press fiasco. And Laura has been working with the chief of staff, Susie Wiles, and this is how they've been vetting everyone. This is how they've been making sure that only the right people are insiders. And it is true. I mean, if Laura had something against Tucker due to something he was reporting on or just general outlook and worldview, maybe she was motivated to try and sink his ship or to create that rift between Tucker and Trump. I mean, it appeared that the two of them used to be pretty close, and now Trump seems to have a lot of negative things to say about Tucker. Maybe it is true that Laura had something to do with that. But in both of the examples, both about Tucker and about Laura, there is a lot of questions about the unequal enforcement. And before I get to the specific question I think you should ask yourself, I think that there's facts about both of these things that I think are very important to look at, right? First of all, if this were true, hypothetically, let's just say Tucker was under investigation. Hypothetically, this is a thought experiment. I'm not trying to push a conspiracy. I don't believe he's under investigation. None of the reporting aligns with that. But if we pretended for a moment maybe he was, well, let's look at the other thing, right? Trump sounds off frequently about Obama, about the Russia collusion hoax, about, all of these things with Brennan and Clapper and Comey and the false 2017 intelligence community assessment on the Russian election interference. He talks about these things all the time, even directed the DOJ and Pam Bondi to investigate Obama. And they even put it in front of a grand jury. Trump has put several AI-generated images of Obama being arrested for this whole investigation. So you mean to tell me that we are in a timeline? What do you think would happen? What do you think the political capital that you would spend if the first corruption arrest, the first major corruption arrest in Washington was Tucker Carlson? How do you think that plays with the MAGA base? Just out of curiosity, what do you think in terms of 4D chess or political analysis? How does that play out? That really, after all this talk about all these different guys, and that Tucker Carlson's the first one in cuffs, do you think that that's good for the base? I mean, I'm not saying that the guy's a political genius. I think that a lot of that is overblown. But let's be real. Like, if you got Tucker Carlson before you got any of those guys, how are people going to react to that? What do you think that looks like for 2026 and 2028? I mean, sure, maybe you think he's dumb. Do you think he's that dumb? You're going to go after one of your own before you get one. After every single day on Truth Social saying something about all these other people, you get Tucker first. Yeah, right. Now, the next question I ask you to consider. In these two cases, the unequal enforcement of the Tucker Carlson story, how does that start? Who benefits if you take Tucker Carlson off of the board right now? As there's a war in Iran and Tucker Carlson has proven he's been pretty consistent. Tucker's always been an anti-war Republican. That's kind of been his thing for a while. So if you take Tucker off the board right now, who benefits from that? And if you were watching any of the Erika Kirk conspiracy, if you were listening to Ian Carroll and Candace Owens in the first 24 hours after Charlie's death, you guys remember what the conspiracy was. I don't think I have to say it. I hope you don't make me say it because I don't want to get shadow banned again. I don't want to get censored or removed for multiple violations on live. But you guys remember what the original theory was of who was behind it. And now, within a couple weeks, that kind of morphed, didn't it? Because instead of those people, now it's Egyptian planes. Now it's the French Legion. Now it's all these other people. Oh, it was probably the Trump administration himself. This guy was a Trump supporter. You guys remember. This conspiracy about what happened to Charlie has gone way off into left field, and you are allowed to talk about that. But if for a moment you suggest that this thing going on with Tucker is just a smear campaign, you're not allowed to talk about that. Now, who benefits from that unequal enforcement? Is it that hard to figure out? Because to me, if you just think it's hypocrisy, You have to wonder, why did they just forget to take down Candace Owens, the #1 podcaster in the world, to talk about a subject that she's milked for 6 months now? Or do you think it's more likely that somebody benefits from one narrative being allowed to continue off into left field and the other one being stopped cold right now? I mean, I think I know what's going on, but it's just me. It's just me. It's just a coincidence, guys. Nobody freak out. It's just another coincidence. Now, I won't totally say that Tucker's off the hook either, because he did go on his show and he did kind of fan the flames of this conspiracy a little bit. And to be honest, the way that I see it, the smear campaigns are that is a go-to tactic, especially on journalists. It's super easy, and Tucker's already he's said a million times, he's insulated himself from the easy ones. Oh, your online activity, or this or that, your pictures or whatever. Dude doesn't own a phone, doesn't own a computer. He's made it so he's kind of insulated from that type of attack, so you got to get a little more creative. I think that this whole thing started as a smear campaign against him. And considering that the guy has been in media his entire career and he doesn't appear to be dumb, I think that he probably realized if he leaned into it, like they say, oh, we think he's working with this foreign government. I think he realized, if I overcorrect, then I can actually play this for clicks. I can make myself the victim. There's nothing more valuable today than the victim narrative. Trump, even the second time he won his election, he won because he played himself up as an outsider, that as a billionaire elite managed to bill himself as somebody who was being locked outside of the club. And this is what it got us. You couldn't be more in the club. You got Lindsey Graham and Mark Levin. Like, you couldn't be more in the Republican club at this point. Rush Limbaugh. On the other hand, Trump lost as an incumbent. Kind of weird. Kind of hard to do, actually. Not going to lie. When he was inside the club, he lost. Outside the club, he won. Both times. I don't have to rehash the victim narrative thing. If you're even remotely on the right, you're like, yeah, that's true. And if you're on the left, you can say, well, I mean, when people are downtrodden, you have to pick them up. I think we can all agree that there is a political capital in that. And I think that Tucker, he can see which way the wind's blowing. He knows what time it is. Yeah, okay, they're trying to smear me. I can't try and rise above it. That's just going to make me look more guilty. I'll lean into it. I'll say they're trying to railroad me. There's another guy, victim narrative. You got kicked out of Fox News. Now you got a massive podcast, and I think he makes more money now. Got his whole little line of dip or whatever. Got robbed. Wow. Best free marketing in the world. It only cost him like $1 million if you think about it. It was like $1 million worth of his freaking Zins disappeared. Alp. I hate that they say it like that in the ads. But yeah, they gets robbed for $1 million worth of his product and gets $100 million worth of advertising for free. Now that's just a coincidence. You can't say that I'm conspiracy theorizing on that. I didn't say it. You thought it. You might have thought it, but I didn't say it. That's all. All right. Well, we're gonna keep it short and sweet. I wanted to see if I could get through 20 minutes of this without getting knocked off again. But yeah, the entire news is just dominated by this war in Iran, or really not war in Iran, which is kind of a bummer, because war is a bummer, like generally, to not to put too fine a point on it. War is a bummer. Yeah, that's my hot take for the day. No, I mean, it's dominated this whole thing, and it sucks because it's all AI generated crap from Israel, Iran, our own government, our own media is like at a all-time low in terms of credibility, and everybody says they're winning, and everybody says that nobody on their team has died yet, but they've killed a guerrillion people on the other side, and it's looking more and more like that's just like not really true. We had this Joe Kent resignation. That was That's kind of a weird blow, right? Because Joe Kent was, he was like kind of like a Bush era Republican. Like he ran for he run for Congress or senator in Washington, but he's brought onto the Trump admin. He's working, and then all of a sudden he's got a problem with this war, and he says, it's way worse than we thought. That we might have lost a lot more people than we're actually reporting. And in fact, we had a little leak from Died Suddenly, which, if you're not familiar with them, they kind of hit the ground running when they first started talking about the myocarditis thing around COVID. And that was, they had the documentary, you guys remember. If you're on the right, you might actually have a lot of affinity for these folks. But they claim that they have a source that over 4 years has never given them wrong information. They say this source has been vindicated every time for 4 years. And right now, it's important to remember, they did not share who this source is, which anytime you have an anonymous source for any kind of insider information, it is very important you take that information with a grain of salt. Even if they say that this person has a perfect track record over 4 years, everybody's trying to get paid. And there's a lot of money in this right now. There's a lot of money in all this war propaganda and all of this signaling, messaging. Primary season just started, so you have to be critical. You have to have a critical eye with this kind of information. Now I'll get to it. Sorry. They're saying that Joe Kent resigned because he knows that the Iran war is going poorly and was started purely by Israel lying and manipulating Trump. That is what Died Suddenly said, not me. Now, he refused to lie about those facts publicly. Spoken to several national security sources, and the summary of what they have told me is that 1, America is 1 week from exhausting our supply of interceptor missiles. 1 week. Without which we have no effective means of stopping incoming missiles and drones to Israel, Jordan, Qatar, UAE, and Saudi Arabia. That is wild, because those are all the people that are getting struck right now. No, I'm trying to, try and keep it light. I know that this is heavy stuff. But Iran knows this and intentionally kept back their biggest, most advanced, and deadly cruise missiles. Attempts by the U.S. to destroy those missile sites have failed, and a good portion remain operational and ready for launch. That would be, if that's true, big if true. Very, very bad if true. If America cannot protect our allies in the region, they will sue for peace without us, and without protection, Israel will suffer massive casualties. Yikes. Sue for peace without us also means that we're at war by ourselves, by the way. The stockpile is dangerously low from the Trump administration using missiles to defend Israel since the October 7th attacks and the war in Ukraine. Oops, I thought we were supposed to end that on day 1. The current supreme leader of Iran, Mojtaba Khamenei, survived the decapitation strike and follow-on attempts and has now successfully fled to Russia, where the U.S. is weighing committing another act of war with Putin by trying to kill him in Moscow. Trump actually has decent relationships with Putin, so it's like possible maybe they could greenlight something like that. But Iran is also a major ally of Russia, so that would be very not good if your president of an allied state was assassinated inside your country and you had anything to do with it. Though, you could always do it as one of those, black flag, unofficial, send in James Bond or whatever to do the job and just be like, if you get caught, we had nothing to do with this. It could be one of those situations. And I don't know, who knows? Maybe we could get away with it. I doubt it. And yeah, AI videos or not, Iran will never surrender if they find out that they successfully killed or gravely injured the great Satan's puppet master. So yeah, that's, again, this is all reporting from Died Suddenly. If you just got here, don't put this on me. Don't report me. I'm reading you the news. I'm reading you the news from a guy who, I don't know. You feel however you want about it. That's all I'm trying to say. If you think it's wrong, go in the comment section. You can give some counterfactuals. That's what it's for. And I love that. I will read it. If you put in a comment that doesn't have dirty words or say anything, that'll get me kicked off, I will absolutely read it. 3, America has no good options to end this war, which needed to be finished quickly due to tyranny of variables stacked against the U.S., such as terrain, distance, lack of ground forces, and durability of the Iranian government. Yeah, that's crazy. I said that on the second day. Options now being considered are nuclear and futuristic weapons like the ones which were deployed in Venezuela that struck fear into the minds of all of our adversaries. The same adversaries now watching in shock and laughter as America falters in this half-cocked expedition against one of the strongest nations in the Middle East. I don't know why we didn't open with that, right? I mean, seriously, like, you just unveiled, like, the coolest toys ever deployed on the battlefield, and, like, then did a whole article about, like, what do they call it? The discombobulator. They even gave it a name. They're like, yeah, dude, people were like peeing their pants and passing out. Like we took on 130 guys, never even fired a shot, just discombobulated them. You mean to tell me that should have been the first weapon you deployed in the Middle East? Just saying. I don't know. It's probably like a war crime. To be honest, it probably is. So maybe we shouldn't do that. China is weighing an invasion of Taiwan by July of this year because of the very real distraction and depletion of U.S. military stockpiles, troops, and resources for the Iran conflict. That's a good point, and probably why they aren't jumping in, because they're like, oh, they're busy over there. They can stay busy. We'll be busy over here. U.S. casualties have easily reached 500, with many injured and dead that have not been admitted by the Pentagon. Probably true. I've said this 1,000 times. Supposedly, over some months, 32,000 protesters were killed in Iran. 32,000. And they claim they have all the facts on this. And if that's true, you mean to tell me that a full-blown war has started, with ordnance going off everywhere, missile strikes, sometimes landing in elementary schools, and like the total casualty on both sides is like what, less than 3,000? I don't know. These numbers by comparison don't really make sense. America has lost 4 fixed-wing aircraft, more than we've lost in 20 years of war combined. The aircraft were not shot down accidentally as previously thought. They were downed by sympathizers in the Kuwaiti Air Force. The pilot indeed went rogue, and other fractures in the shaky Middle East alliance are plausible as this war drags on. I don't know. Maybe. I mean, right? Could be. Could be. Russia and China have been capturing data from the combat operations and providing satellite and intelligence support to Iran, and as part of this have cracked the signal communications for America's B-2 bombers, meaning one of our primary deployment means for nuclear weapons. Previously stealth and untraceable in radar can now be tracked in flight and shot down, a major blow to nuclear deterrence and mad threat against superpowers. If that's true, then we are really screwed, because the B-2 bomber is like the best thing we got running on the ground, unless if we're going to deploy those future weapons, maybe we got some of them alien spaceships, the ones they keep talking about in Congress. We can finally find out that those are the real deal, and not just alien. It's from right here, made in the USA. We roll one of those out, it just says made in the USA on the side. It's got the little flag. They're like, oh, the aliens are from America. This war may have effectively evened the playing field for China. America's only options are bad, and Kent knew this when he resigned. Best thing we can do is literally and figuratively put down the shovel and stop digging the hole deeper. So that's from Died Suddenly, right? That's what they're reporting. So I'm just reading you a report from another place. That's it. So you can't put that on me in terms of content. I don't think you can put that on me. I haven't read the whole user agreement. It's like 800 pages. Anyway, you got to remember, this is from an anonymous source. So you have to take everything said there with a grain of salt. There's a lot of money in this. That anonymous source even could have been offered money. Hey, we know that you give these people information and they feel that they can trust you. We would love you to run some anti-Israel, like some anti-propaganda. We'd love for you to run it's not even pro-Iranian, it's just kind of like anti-America, like that we're in a bad spot, right? So again, take it with a major grain of salt, but big if true, right? Maybe you guys can give us some prescriptions. Maybe you see this and you leave a couple comments about what's the next move, where do we go? Hey guys, if there's no more America, do you think we can do like America 2 on the moon? Like we can all go together. It'll be like the frontier. It will be just like a bunch of bros being dudes until we settle it, and then we can all bring our wives and kids. It'll be great. And then we'll turn it into a prison colony. That seemed to work out like everywhere else we did it, by the way. So like I'm kind of like half joking. If you made the moon inhabitable even slightly, you could probably make it into a prison colony, and it'd probably be like great. All right. Well, anyway, yeah, maybe that's the policy prescription is we do Australia on the moon. All right. Well, anyway, that's fine. I'm gonna go work out. Bye.